Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS slate breakdown for June 14th, Friday. We made it to the end of the week. We got another big slate on tap today. As always, we will go through that, but we will begin with the perfect lineups and the winning lineups from yesterday's main slate. Then we will get into today's the pitchers to consider and some stack information. Now, before we get into all that, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to everything we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all, one low price. There's also a couple cheap ways to get in. We have a free 7-day trial through the app stores. That is a great opportunity if you have never tried us and you have iOS or Android phones. Now, let's get into it. Perfect lineup. And start on Fanduel. All right, so Taj Bradley went absolute nuts. I talked about yesterday that he has the strikeout upside we want, and he definitely showed it. 11 Ks, 7 innings, 0 earned run. He did allow a couple earned runs. Ended up getting the win just because he got lucky, really. But all in all, great performance, and he got it done. Then we had a 3-man Arizona stack. They went nuts. JD Martinez made it in a 2-man Miami stack with Carlos Correa, who has just been on absolute fire, making it as well. 8 days ago, Carlos Correa had a sub-2... 250 average, and now he's at 299. It's 300 if you round up. So he's been absolutely crushing, and it has been pretty cool to see. And then the winning lineup on FanDuel went to Joe Kelly, who had Taj Bradley, only 12% owned there. They had a 4-man Boston stack and a 4-man Atlanta stack. So once again, that 4-4 gets it done. It's been a little bit of a run for 4-4 lineups on both FanDuel and DraftKings lately. So congrats to Joe Kelly, and let's check out DraftKings. Now, DraftKings, we had Garrett Crochet and Brandon Paft. Brandon Paft was one of the guys that I was on as far as a lower-owned guy. Garrett Crochet, I definitely said that I liked him. I was a little worried about upside on FanDuel, not so much on DraftKings with 9,400, but he made me eat my words because he went out and had 13 Ks in an away game in 7 innings of work. Great work by Garrett. And hitting-wise, 2-man Arizona, 2-man Boston, 2-man Miami. Sorry, 3-man Arizona, 2-man Boston, 2-man Miami. And then the winning lineup went to 1-800-EDDIE and Crochet, Paft. They had the Arizona 5-man stack and, Arizona 4-man stack. No, Arizona 5-man stack. And then a 2-man of White Sox and a 1-off of Carlos Correa. So congrats to 1-800-EDDIE. Now let's get in today's slate to the meat and potatoes. All right, so highest owned, we got Chris Sale. He has been pitching just absolutely amazingly. The one big deterrent here is the weather. It is mid-90s in Hotlanta, and the winds are slightly blowing out, although I do say slightly, it's like 5 miles an hour. But this guy has just been pitching unreal. It's like vintage Sale all over again. 1.97 FIP over his last 5, 31% K rate. K rate is real. He's been doing the same over the last 20. Only issue here is he is probably due to a little bit of regression over the short term. 1.97 FIP over a 3.09 ERA over his last 5 starts. So he has been getting a little lucky, but over the long term, he's been solid. He is who he is. He's in an okay matchup versus Tampa Bay. And then the BVP data looks a little scary. However, there's been nothing this year. He got beat up last year. With Boston last year, he was a little bit inconsistent. He would have these amazing games and then just get lit up. And that's just not happening this year. He has been a different pitcher. Maybe Atlanta just saw one little thing and tweaked that a little bit, and now he is back to being very good. Can't hate you for playing Sale for sure. I think he's in a decent spot, 28% combined K rate. Only issue really for me is that weather is favoring hitting a little bit. Next, we got Hunter Green versus the Brewers. Brewers are good versus righties, 340 WOBA, 170 ISO. Hunter Green is a solid pitcher with a little bit of upside, but he does allow a lot of fly balls and a decent amount of hard contact. Milwaukee hits the ball hard, so there is definitely a chance of a home run or two. The big thing is if people are on base. The other thing is that Hunter Green does allow a lot of steals. He's allowed 16 over the last 20 starts and 3 over the last 5 starts. And really hasn't faced teams that run a ton over the last 5. They run a little, yes, but not, some absurd amount. And Milwaukee will definitely run. So I think it is a spot where Milwaukee can steal a couple bags and force a couple runs in. And if there's a couple timely hits, they can definitely get to Hunter Green. But I don't mind Hunter Green. I think his price at 8.3K is totally fair. Tariq Skubal, this guy has just been pitching absolutely amazing. 2.14 FIP over his last 20 starts, 2.46 over his last 5, 33% K rate over the last 20, 30% over the last 5. The only issue here is it is against the Astros, who have been hitting decently, but there's still no Kyle Tucker. So Astros are definitely, a little bit less worrisome than they were. Now, with the the BVP data here, it looks really scary. 347 over 52 plate attempts. But if you look at their matchups, 6.1 innings, 2 earned runs, 7 Ks. 6 innings, 2 earned run, 9 Ks. 7 innings, 1 earned run, 9 Ks. Skubal has still been doing very, very well versus them, even though he's allowed a decent amount of hits. It's just they've been, softer contact or haven't really done damage, and he's been able to get out of the jam. So I don't mind some Skubal. I like Skubal in this. He is likely the Cy Young winner right now, and I'm not getting off that train. We got him at 2.5x. 10.2K. Super intrigued by them. Next, we got Luis Castillo, 8.6K. Should have went yesterday. Got pushed back. And now he's in a way tougher matchup. It was going to be White Sox yesterday. Now it's the Rangers. So the one thing, though, Rangers versus righties have not been great. So 299 WOBA, 116 ISO versus righties. He's doing about 24% better with fantasy points at home. And then in the short term versus Texas, they have a 211 average versus righties, 0.86 WOBA, or 0.086 ISO, I should say, and a 0.254 WOBA. They have been terrible versus righties lately. Now, there is a chance that Seager is back. In that case, the lineup would look a little bit better, but it wouldn't be dramatically better. Now, there is some issue with the BVP data. They've been able to get to him a little bit, but it was largely just one game where he only went 2.2 innings, gave up 5 earned runs, and had 4 Ks. Outside of that, he has been good versus Texas. He is cheap enough and at home where he is firmly still in consideration. And at 2.3x, we would definitely like it. Next, we got Freddie Peralta. I'm in on Freddie. Huge upside versus Cincinnati, who strikes out a lot. They hit the ball hard. However, if he can keep him off the base path a little bit, he should be fine. He does allow a lot of fly balls, but not that much hard contact. I think Freddie is in a good spot. 9.6K, 1.9X, and 28.5% combined K rate. The upside is there for Freddie at a little lower ownership. Hunter Brown is next. Hunter Brown's been pitching pretty well lately. He has been even getting unlucky. 4.64 FIP over a 3.10 ERA, 27% K rate. StatCast data looks good. I'm definitely intrigued. I do have to bring up the fact that Tigers have been decent versus righties here. 172 ISO, 309 WOBA over the short term. And then the long term, 319 WOBA and 139 ISO. So they've been hitting the ball a little bit hard. BVP data shows big time strikeout upside. You definitely can't expect that again. Last time he faced him, 5 innings of work, 1 earned run, 7 Ks. Definitely a bit intrigued. 7.2K is too cheap for the upside that he has. Simon Woods Richardson, he's just kind of meh to me. I think I wouldn't cut him out of the player pool based on the matchup, but I'm definitely not trying to force him in. I think Andrew Heaney is a very, very interesting option for me. He's been better away, 26% more fantasy points away. Seattle strikes out a ton. They aren't that great of an offense. They, have a couple home runs here and there, but if you can avoid those, then you're generally okay. They don't beat you with, just timely hitting. They just don't do it. They beat you a couple home runs and really good pitching, and I think Heaney can put up a decent score today. 23.4% combined K rate at 7K. I am interested. And Bradish. This dude has been pitching unreal. 1.71 FIP over his last 5 starts, 34% K rate. I'm definitely on board. Phillies are still a bit banged up. It is June, so you got to watch out for Schwarber, especially versus a righty. But all in all, Phillies 305 WOBA. Not that worried about that. He has been worse at home, but I'm all right with it. 9.1K, 2.3X, 26% combined K rate. I'm totally on board. Sean Manaea's pretty cheap, so he's at least interesting. Padres been terrible versus lefties. Just not a ton of K upside in this matchup. That's my one worry for Manaea here. I do have to say, too, there is some weather worries. It does look like if it is a late start and play, they'll be able to play, but depends on how much time they have to wait or if they're just going to postpone it. So we'll have to know. That is at least one of the first games, so we should know, or have an idea prior to lock what's going on there. So the other worry is this Baltimore game, but I don't think that is much of a worry. We should be good there. Ranger Suarez, guy is pitching unreal. It's a tough matchup versus Baltimore, but guy's been putting everybody away. So I don't worry too much about going to Baltimore. My worry here is he left his last outing banged up. And I know he says he's fine, but was a hand injury. Who knows what happens there. All in all, though, 2.2X. He's a decent option at low ownership. Cole Reagans is in a tough matchup versus the Dodgers, who crush lefties, but Reagans has a huge upside in the strikeout department. So I wouldn't cancel him out, and the Dodgers back in the lineup can definitely get beat. So I like Reagans. I think he's okay. Very dangerous spot, though, versus the good old Dodgers. Matt Waldron, a little weather worry here. Waldron has been pitching insane. The one thing I got to bring up is I think he's been pitching a little bit better than he really is. However, that knuckleball is absolutely insane. With the K upside, I got to be a little bit intrigued, especially with the Mets not hitting righties very hard. However, it is warm. Their winds are blowing out. It is definitely home run weather. So you got to worry about that a little bit, but there's also the chance the game just doesn't play or delay start and play. Lastly, I got to talk about Gausman. 8.5K is too cheap for Gausman. I don't care if he is against the Guardians. Guy has a sub 3 FIP, 25% K rate. Only issue, StatCast data-wise, hard contact is 38%, and he's allowing a lot of barreled balls. With that, this year, for whatever reason, he's been way worse at home. It's typically not, a thing with him, so I don't know if I'd put too much stock in that, but it's something to have note. BVPY has been really good versus Cleveland. Issue combined K rate is only 20, but we got him at 2.0x. He's cheap. Definitely intrigued to go there. Outside of that, I'm probably not really going to any of these last guys, so let's get over to FanDuel before I talk for 30 minutes. All right, now we got Freddie Peralta being the highest owned. Look, I said I liked him on DraftKings, and I like him here. 9.8K is too cheap for the upside that he has in this spot. Chris Sale, 11.1K is insane. I really struggle getting there. However, he is, a point higher projected than anybody else. Oh, sorry. Scooble is almost, or 5 points higher than him. So, Sale is interesting. I don't know if I'd get too much of him on FanDuel at that ownership and that price. I think there's just different ways to go. Hunter Green, a little bit intrigued with, but I don't love it. Intrigued with Castillo a bit just due to his upside. Absolutely love Scooble and on both sites. 10.4K for what he's been doing is just too good. Our projection is huge on him. I know we are a little different than the consensus. Consensus like Sale. We like Scooble. And honestly, I would rather go with Scooble versus Houston and no Tucker than the hitting weather of Truist Park. Reagan's is fine. Heaney is definitely one of my cheap guys that I would be considering. And then I'm also very much in consideration as Ranger Suarez and Kyle Bradish. Probably not have quite as much Gosman on DraftKings as I would on FanDuel. And then I think Hunter Brown, even though our projection is not there, I think he is in consideration on FanDuel. Only a game total of 7. This is going to be a low-scoring game. It's Scooble versus Hunter Brown. Brown's been good lately with upside. I'm intrigued to go here. 8.6K isn't too expensive. I would like that price to be down, though. I gotta say that. Don't love the price. Manaya's price, super cheap. He's at least interesting. Padres haven't been good versus lefties, whatever. But you're leaving a ton of upside on the table going with Manaya. And for that reason, I probably won't really do it. I think you're probably... I think it's very doubtful that all of these guys fail who all have way more upside than Manaya. So that is one of my issues going with Manaya. Now, let's get over to some stacks and see what we got here. All right. Highest ceiling play, we got Cleveland versus Kevin Gausman. Never liked playing Gausman, but he's been worse at home. Cleveland can hit anybody. It's definitely intriguing. Dodgers, really good versus lefties. Reagan's on the bump, though. Hard to want to go against him. Orioles versus Suarez. I think it's pretty interesting slate, and a lot of the top offenses are in tough spots. So it'll be kind of interesting how that goes. Now let's check out the highest owned stacks. It's got to be Colorado or Pittsburgh in my mind. It is a near pick'em game, 11-point total, 2 points higher than any other game. And I think they are clearly the top stacks. Pittsburgh, all over Pittsburgh. I do have to say, though, we only have a 71% ownership on them. That means that in a 12-game slate, people are pretty spread out. I am not shying away from Pittsburgh in this situation. I don't think Feltner is very good. He does have a 3.9 FIP over his last 20, but a 4.65 over his last 5, and the Colorado bullpen is terrible. I am absolutely on board with some Pittsburgh. Arizona's been hitting the ball very well, and Chris Flexen is not very good. A FIP of 5 over his last 20 and over his last 5. Behind him is a bullpen that's not very good. I am absolutely intrigued by the big-time favorites of the Diamondbacks, who are second highest favorite on the board behind Atlanta. And let's check out some higher projected stacks. Cleveland, Dodgers, Arizona, Pittsburgh, KC, all are on it. KC's versus Gavin Stone, who has been very, very good lately. 3.12 FIP over his last 5, 4.48 over his last 20. Arizona, we talked about. Dodgers, we talked about. Cleveland, we talked about. Pittsburgh, we talked about. Let's move it on to value here to see if we can talk about somebody else. And I hope White Sox are popping up here, because White Sox are one that I am very intrigued with. Versus Ryan Nelson, who's been terrible lately and worse at home. So I do think the White Sox in an interesting game in a ballpark that is decent is an interesting one. And they are popping up a little bit. Also, Detroit is popping up. Detroit's been hitting the ball pretty well lately, and Hunter Brown, frankly, while he's been good lately, has shown a lot of inconsistency. So you do have to worry about his inconsistencies there a little bit. And Detroit is not a bad one to throw in. With all this high-priced pitching that is good, you very much may need at least a small, kind of cheaper value stack. Detroit and White Sox are both firmly in consideration here. All right. Let's check. Oh, we already did ceiling. So let's just click the teams here, find out some more information. All right, so highest implied total, Colorado and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looks like we don't know who the pitcher is yet, but that Pittsburgh bullpen's not very good. And if it's a bullpen game, it's fairly interesting. And Colorado routinely goes under-owned at home, just because they're not a great offense, but that Colorado bump is for real. Arizona, definitely like them in this spot against Flexen, who sucks, and the bullpen is just about as bad. Minnesota, I think, is super interesting. Mitch Spence has been decent. Don't want to take anything away from him, but this Minnesota team has been hitting really well. Carlos Correa is on absolute fire. Royce Lewis is hitting a home run every other day. Definitely intrigued by them. Atlanta versus Lytle. Lytle allows a lot of fly balls, decent average exit velocity and hard contact rate. And then the Braves hit the ball the hardest in the league. They have the second highest hard hit rate and the highest average exit velocity. So when those two things come together, being a pitcher, being a fly ball pitcher, allowing a lot of hard contact, and we got hitting weather, it's when that Braves offense can really turn on. So I am definitely a little intrigued by the Braves, even though their offense over the last month or month and a half has been awful. Still intrigued there. Giants, 4.6 implied total versus Tyler Anderson. Bad bullpen behind him. Definitely intrigued to go there. I just got to warn you with the Giants. They platoon everybody. 5-man stacks. 4-man stacks are tough for them. I prefer smaller ones. Toronto versus Logan Allen. Definitely a little bit intrigued there, but the bullpen's really good after him. Milwaukee's interesting. Dodgers are always in play. White Sox, value stack with an implied run total of 4, I think is interesting. Detroit, who was our value stack, is down at 3.8. So White Sox do have a little bit of higher implied total. So that is intriguing. And then I got to bring up the Mets. Waldron's been great lately, but I've said it. The knuckleball is just inconsistent. Waldron's knuckleball has been very consistent lately, but he's going to have games where he just gets blown up. That's just kind of the nature of the pitch. If that one pitch isn't working, all those other stuff doesn't look quite as good. So there's definitely some issues with that. And then always, you have some leverage stacks here because we have a bunch of pitchers that are 20-ish% owned. Feel free to do that. A lot of them are good offenses, so don't mind that one. All in all, guys, it's been a great week. Good luck tonight. Let's win some money. And I'll see you next week. Peace. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, please. It helps us a ton.